This month, Medicare reached into the Social Security check of nearly every senior in America and quietly took $202. It didn't ask. There was no bill in the mail you could argue with, no phone call, no warning. It came straight off the top, before the money ever touched your account, and most people over 65 never even saw it leave. If you're retired and living on Social Security, that's your money. The money you paid into for 40 years of work. And a chunk of it is gone before you can spend a single dime of it. Nobody at the Social Security office is going to call and explain why your check looks a little smaller this year. So I'm going to, and stay with me all the way to the end, because number 5 is the one that puts that entire $200 back into your check, every single month, for the rest of your life. And it happens to be the easiest one on this whole list to claim. Let me tell you exactly what we're doing today. First, I'll show you what actually happened to your check this year, and why the raise you were promised seemed to vanish into thin air. Then I'll walk you through 4 specific, completely legal ways to claw that money back or stop the bleeding. The exact programs, the exact forms, the exact phone numbers, and who each one helps the most. And let me kill the biggest myth right now, because it is the single reason most people click away and leave this money sitting on the table. A lot of folks hear government program and think, that's only for people who are flat broke. That's not me. Wrong. And just as many think, well, I saved a little, I own my home, so I'm locked out and there's no point. Also wrong. There is a piece of this for the senior scraping by on a tiny check, and there is a piece of this for the retiree with a paid-off house and a comfortable pension. Both of them are losing money for completely different reasons. I break these rules down in plain English for people over 60 because Lord knows the government won't. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not your accountant. I can't sit down and run your personal numbers for you, but I can hand you the exact form to carry to someone who can, and the exact words to say when you get them on the phone. Do me one small favor before we dig in. Drop your age in the comments, just the number, nothing else. I genuinely want to see who's in the room with me today. Now let me bring all of this down to one real person, because numbers floating in the air don't mean anything. Meet Margaret. She's 71, a retired school bus driver from a small town in Ohio. She raised 2 kids, mostly on her own. She drove that same route for 26 years, through every kind of winter that state could throw at her. And today she lives on about $1,950 a month from Social Security. That's the whole picture. No big pension, no stock portfolio, a fixed check, a fixed life, and a budget she knows right down to the dollar. Back at the start of this year, Margaret got a letter telling her she was getting a cost of living raise. She was glad. She'd been watching the price of eggs and gas like everybody else. Then her first check of the year landed in her account, and somehow it had barely moved. She read the letter again. She read the deposit again. The raise was real, but something else had quietly eaten almost all of it. That something is exactly where we begin. Number 1, before you can fight this, you have to see it clearly, because you cannot get back money you don't even know was taken. The standard Medicare Part B premium for 2026 is $202.90 a month. Last year, it was $185. So in one single year, it jumped $17.90. That's almost a 10% increase on just that one line. And the part that really stings is this: that premium never shows up as a bill you can look at and question. For nearly everyone drawing Social Security, it gets pulled straight out of your check before the money ever reaches your bank. You don't write it, you don't approve it, it simply isn't there. Now hold that next to your raise. The cost of living adjustment for this year, the COLA, you've heard the term, was 2.8%. For the average retiree, that worked out to about $56 more a month. So follow the simple, brutal arithmetic. They handed Margaret roughly $56 with one hand, and with the other hand they took almost 18 of it straight back on the premium alone. A third of her raise. Gone before it ever existed. And it didn't stop there. The annual deductible, the amount you pay out of pocket before Medicare starts paying its share, climbed too, up to $283 this year, from $257 the year before. So the squeeze is coming from both ends at once. And the cruelest little detail of all is the flat math. That $202.90 is the exact same dollar amount whether your check is $1,500 a month or $2,500 a month. It doesn't shrink for the people with the least. So on Margaret's small check, that premium eats a far bigger slice than it does for a wealthy retiree. The people who can most afford it feel it the least, and the people who can least afford it feel it the most. That's the trap, and nobody at any office is going to explain it to you. That's the bad news, and I'm not going to dress it up in a bow. But everything from this point forward is how you fight back. So let's go get some of it back. Number 2 is a federal rule that quietly protects far more of you than you would ever guess, and almost no one knows its name. It's called the hold-harmless provision. Say it once out loud, because you may need those exact words someday. In plain English, this is what it does for you. The law says the dollar increase in your Part B premium cannot be larger than the dollar increase in your Social Security raise. Put simply, your net check is not allowed to actually shrink from one year to the next just because Medicare went up. If your raise was about $56 and the premium only went up about $18, then you're sitting safely inside that shield. Your check still went up this year, just not by as much as you'd hoped. So why does this matter to you practically, right now? Because there are years, and we have lived through them recently, when the premium leaps and the raise is tiny. In those years, this one rule is the only thing standing between you and a check that physically gets smaller. It's automatic. You don't file a thing to get it. But you absolutely need to know it exists, because the catch on this one genuinely bothers me. The shield does not cover everyone. If your income is high enough to pay an extra surcharge, and I'll explain precisely what that means in about 60 seconds, the hold harmless rule throws you right out. No protection at all. So the folks with the largest amounts coming out of their checks are the very ones the safety net was written to skip over. Hold on to that thought, because it leads us straight into number 3. Number 3 is aimed at a specific group of people. And if it turns out it isn't you, stay with me anyway, because I promise you know someone it is. This is about a surcharge with an ugly name, IRMAA. It stands for the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, and once you strip away the jargon, all it really means is this. If your income sits above a certain line, Medicare charges you extra, stacked right on top of that $200 premium. For 2026, that line is $109,000 a year for a single person, and $218,000 for a married couple filing together. Step over it, even by a single dollar, and your Part B premium doesn't gently nudge upward. It leaps. Higher income seniors this year are paying anywhere from about $284 a month on the low end, all the way up to nearly $700 a month on the high end. And the genuinely cruel part is how it works. It's a cliff, not a ramp. One extra dollar of income can tip you into the next bracket and trigger the entire surcharge for that whole tier. But your rescue on this one is a real, named form, so grab a pen. If your income looks high on paper, but your actual life has just changed, you retired this year, you lost your husband or your wife, you went through a divorce, your work hours got cut, you do not have to just swallow that surcharge. You file Form SSA-44. That is the official form for what they call a life-changing event. You tell them your income has dropped, you tell them why, and they recalculate the surcharge based on your real life today, instead of an old tax return. And that points to something else they certainly won't volunteer. Your surcharge for this year is based on your tax return from 2 years ago, 2 years back. So a huge number of people are being charged a high-income penalty on money they don't even earn anymore. Margaret's neighbor, a retired dentist, lovely man, was getting hammered with a surcharge built on his last big working year, long after he'd hung it up. He filed that SSA-44, showed them plainly that he'd retired, and they brought it back down to earth. Ask for that form by name. SSA-44. Write it on your hand if you have to. Quick gut check before we go on, because I'm curious. Did you even know Medicare charged a high-income surcharge at all? Type yes or no in the comments. One word. I read them, and it tells me how badly this stuff is being hidden. Number 4. While we're busy clawing money back, let's not forget the other premium quietly riding along beside the first one, your prescription drug coverage, Part D. There is a program called Extra Help, sometimes called the Low-Income Subsidy, and it can wipe out most or even all of your Part D premium / what you hand over at the pharmacy counter, and erase that nasty late enrollment penalty if you got saddled with one. The thing most people miss is that this program got more generous recently. The rules opened up. So plenty of seniors who applied a couple of years ago and got told no would actually qualify today. And that is the mistake I watch people make over and over. They applied once, they heard a no, and they never went back, never knowing the door had swung open behind them. If you take any regular medication at all, this is real money, often more than $1,000 a year landing back in your pocket. You apply for this one straight through Social Security. The number is 1-800-772-1213. Or you go online at ssa.gov. Tell them plainly that you want to apply for extra help with your Medicare prescription drug costs. Say it by name. It costs nothing to apply, it takes about 20 minutes, and the very worst thing they can tell you is, not right now. That's it. That's the whole risk. And now, number 5, the one I told you at the very start to wait for. This is the biggest dollar amount on the entire list. It is, hand on heart, the easiest one to actually claim. And it is the single most ignored for one infuriating reason. Almost nobody is ever told it exists. It's called a Medicare Savings Program, and what it does is honestly hard to believe the first time somebody says it to you out loud. For seniors whose income falls under a certain line, your state will pay your entire Part B premium for you. The whole thing. That full $202.90 a month lifted off your check and handed straight back into your Social Security deposit. Let me make that real with Margaret again, because the number deserves it. $202.90 a month back in her hands adds up to $2,434.80 over a single year. For a woman living on $1,950 a month, that is not a nice little bonus. That is a full month of groceries. That's her heating bill for the entire winter. That's the prescription she had quietly been cutting in half to stretch it twice as long. There are 3 versions of this program, and you do not need to memorize their names or figure out which one is yours. You just apply, and they sort you into the right one. The income limits are a good deal higher than most people assume, and in most cases, a modest amount of savings, plus your home and your car, don't even count against you. As a rough guide, if you're a single person bringing in under somewhere around $1,700 or $1,800 a month, you should absolutely apply, and in plenty of states, the cutoff sits higher than that. Now here is exactly how you do it, so listen close. For this one, you do not call Medicare. You contact your state's Medicaid office, or you call your local SHIP. That's the State Health Insurance Assistance Program, and they help seniors with precisely this for free. And you tell them, in these words, I want to apply for a Medicare Savings Program. Ask for it by that name, because if you call up and say something vague like, I need help with my premium, you'll get bounced from department to department until you give up. Name it. One application is the entire lift, and it can put that whole $200 back into your check every month for the rest of your life. That right there is why I saved it for last. It's the biggest, it's the easiest, and it's the one they keep the quietest. Now let me add all of this up the way Margaret did, sitting at her own kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold. She couldn't undo the premium itself. That part is locked in for the year, and I won't pretend otherwise. But she qualified for the Medicare Savings Program, and that alone put the full $202.90 back into her monthly check. Her neighbor, the retired dentist, filed his SSA-44 and cut his surcharge down to size. And because Margaret takes 2 regular prescriptions, extra help came in on top and knocked her drug costs down too. And she did it the simple way, 1 phone call a day, Monday through Thursday. Monday, she called the state Medicaid office about the savings program. Tuesday, she called Social Security about extra help. Wednesday, she took a call back and answered a couple of questions. Thursday, she got her confirmation. By the end of one ordinary, quiet week, she had turned a check that the system had silently shaved down into a check that was a full $200 heavier than the month before. $202 a month. Across a year, that's more than $2,400. And across the next 20 years of her life, that one quiet week of phone calls is worth more than $48,000 from 4 phone calls made from her own kitchen. So here is what I really want you to carry away from Margaret's story. The seniors who get this money back are not smarter than you. They're not richer than you. And they did not get lucky. They are simply the ones who found out these programs had names and then asked for them, out loud, by name. The system is doing exactly what it was built to do, which is to stay quiet. The money does not flow to the people who earned it or the people who need it. It flows to the people who ask. So do 2 things for me before you go. First, if you know even one person over 65, a parent, a neighbor, somebody from church, send this to them. It could genuinely put $200 a month back into their life, and odds are they will not hear it anywhere else. Second, tell me down in the comments which of these 5 is yours. Are you the one fighting the surcharge? Or is number 5, the savings program, the one you're picking up the phone about this week? Just drop the number. And if this is the kind of plain, honest, no-nonsense help you've been looking for, subscribe to channel name. Because the next one I'm putting together is the full list of states that don't tax your Social Security at all, and whether yours made the list. I can't run your numbers for you, but you've got the names now. You've got the forms, you've got the phone number, and you've got the exact words to say when somebody picks up. The money is yours. Go ask for it by name.